Ascend 307. Welcome to the Ascend 307 webinar series on essential readiness skills. Today, our focus is on critical thinking skills. Please turn your attention to a welcome by the Wyoming State Superintendent, Megan Degenfelder, and it'll be just a minute as I pull that up.
Hello, I'm Megan Degenfelder, Wyoming State Superintendent of Public Instruction, and I'd like to welcome you to the Ascend 307 series of webinars. Ascend 307 is a multi-year initiative developed through a federal grant awarded to the Wyoming Department of Education. The overarching goal of the grant is to improve outcomes for students with disabilities by enhancing personnel preparation and professional development in education and transition services. The focus of this webinar is employability skills, the skills that employers consistently rank as essential for new hires. The 9 skills are grouped into 3 main categories: applied knowledge, which includes problem solving and decision making; effective relationships, which encompass functioning effectively as part of a team environment; and workplace skills, such as managing time and communicating with coworkers. One of the 6 key initiative areas in my strategic plan is preparing students for jobs, and employability skills are a critical component to this effort. I hope you find this content impactful and continue to watch further installments. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for listening. Employability skills, as you heard State Superintendent Degenfelder say in her opening message, are skills employers consistently rank as essential for new hires. The Wyoming Community College Commission has also stressed the importance of several skills they categorize as social capital skills. At the federal level, the United States, hold on. Okay, I've got my mouse. The United States Department of Education Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education has prepared a framework of employability skills. These skills have been adapted for a Wyoming-ready workforce for all students, those with and without disabilities, to build skills necessary to become functional and valued members of society. But they aren't built exclusively in middle and high school. The core foundational skills need to be developed early, from pre-kindergarten on, as executive function skills. Executive function skills provide the foundation that enables development and application of employability skills as students transition from K-12 environment to employment, and provide long-term benefits of better health, resilience, and reduced risk of criminal convictions. The WDE is moving towards using the term essential readiness skills, which encompasses both executive function and employability skills as those skills that prepare students for the next phase of life, whether that be to kindergarten, to middle school, to high school, or to the workforce. The Wyoming Department of Education has adapted the employability skills framework for a Wyoming-ready workforce. As State Superintendent Degenfelder described, 9 skills are grouped into 3 main categories: applied knowledge, which includes the examples problem solving and decision making; effective relationships, which encompasses functioning effectively as part of a workforce team environment and the flexibility to adapt to a changing workforce conditions; and workplace skills, such as managing one's time and communicating with coworkers. Today, we're going to focus on critical thinking skills, part of applied knowledge. Please welcome our guest speaker for the webinar, who will guide us through what this skill looks like, applications useful in the classroom, and strategies to develop these skills. Sheila Lovato serves as a Senior Technical Assistance Consultant at the American Institute for Research within the Human Services Division. She provides professional learning, coaching, and consultation focused on data use and evidence-based practices to improve student outcomes. Her experience centers on multi-tiered system of supports and strategies for supporting students with disabilities. Sheila brings extensive experience in delivering training and technical assistance at all levels of education. Her background includes teaching from preschool through college and serving in roles such as interventionist, academic counselor, and state agency staff member. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Elementary Education from Florida State University and a Master's of Education in Special Education Interdisciplinary Studies from Montana State University, Billings. Please welcome Sheila Lovato, and we will now turn it over to you.
Great. Well, thank you, Trina. And I will start sharing my screen. Seamless transition there. I'm really happy to be here today. And I can't see your faces, but I am wondering if there are people that I've had the opportunity to work with in Wyoming since I've been working with different initiatives for the past 4 years. Wyoming is dear to my heart because I am a Wyoming native and I also taught in Wyoming. And I have also had the opportunity to work recently on the employability skills or essential skill micro-credentials. So I'm excited to be able to present on this webinar. Let's get started by thinking about what critical thinking skills really are. How do we define them? As we think back to the diagram and the employability skills framework for Wyoming Ready Workforce, under applied knowledge, you saw that critical thinking skills include problem solving and making decisions. Critical thinking invites us to investigate problems with curiosity, analyze information with care, explore different perspectives, and refine our thinking as we learn. Each of these abilities strengthen our capacity to make informed, thoughtful decisions in both familiar and unfamiliar situations, something that we really need to do in the workplace. They're abilities we actively develop through practice, and practice is a key word. As an educator, it's important to have an understanding of what these skills are and to consider how they actually will show up in your daily work, in your classrooms, and in your interactions. Before you can expect students or colleagues to use them, you really need to have a clear picture of what putting these abilities in action really does look like. To give us more context, let's start by watching this short video on how to improve critical thinking. The video will walk you through how critical thinking unfolds step by step, demonstrating the small but powerful moves people make when they question, evaluate, and reason their way through challenges. It's an opportunity to connect the definition to real behavior. So as you watch, I would like you to consider how these habits might look in your own context, as well as how you can help students build them too.
Every day, a sea of decisions stretches before us. Some are small and unimportant, but others have a larger impact on our lives. For example, which politician should I vote for? Should I try the latest diet craze? Or will email make me a millionaire? We're bombarded with so many decisions that it's impossible to make a perfect choice every time. But there are many ways to improve our chances, and one particularly effective technique is critical thinking. This is a way of approaching a question that allows us to carefully deconstruct a situation, reveal its hidden issues, such as bias and manipulation, and make the best decision. If the critical part sounds negative, that's because, in a way, it is. Rather than choosing an answer because it feels right, a person who uses critical thinking subjects all available options to scrutiny and skepticism. Using the tools at their disposal, they'll eliminate everything but the most useful and reliable information. There are many different ways of approaching critical thinking, but here's one 5-step process that may help you solve any number of problems. 1. Formulate your question. In other words, know what you're looking for. This isn't always as straightforward as it sounds. For example, if you're deciding whether to try out the newest diet craze, your reasons for doing so may be obscured by other factors, like claims that you'll see results in just 2 weeks. But if you approach the situation with a clear view of what you're actually trying to accomplish by dieting, whether that's weight loss, better nutrition, or having more energy, that'll equip you to sift through this information critically. find what you're looking for, and decide whether the new fad really suits your needs. 2. Gather your information. There's lots of it out there, so having a clear idea of your question will help you determine what's relevant. If you're trying to decide on a diet to improve your nutrition, you may ask an expert for their advice or seek other people's testimonies. Information gathering helps you weigh different options, moving you closer to a decision that meets your goal. 3. Apply the information, something you do by asking critical questions. Facing a decision, ask yourself, what concepts are at work? What assumptions exist? Is my interpretation of the information logically sound? For example, in an email that promises you millions, you should consider, what is shaping my approach to this situation? Do I assume the sender is telling the truth? Based on the evidence, is it logical to assume I'll win any money? 4. Consider the implications. Imagine it's election time, and you've selected a political candidate based on their promise to make it cheaper for drivers to fill up on gas. At first glance, that seems great. But what about the long-term environmental effects? If gasoline use is less restricted by cost, this could also cause a huge surge in air pollution, an unintended consequence that's important to think about. 5. Explore other points of view. Ask yourself why so many people are drawn to the policies of the opposing political candidate. Even if you disagree with everything that candidate says, exploring the full spectrum of viewpoints might explain why some policies that don't seem valid to you appeal to others. This will allow you to explore alternatives, evaluate your own choices, and ultimately help you make more informed decisions. This 5-step process is just one tool, and it certainly won't eradicate difficult decisions from our lives, but it can help us increase the number of positive choices we make. Critical thinking can give us the tools to sift through a sea of information and find what we're looking for. And if enough of us use it, it has the power to make the world a more reasonable place.
Okay. The video highlighted a simple 5-step thinking process that began with formulating a clear question, something that helps anchor your focus. From there, you gather relevant information to deepen your understanding of the issue at hand. Next, you're going to apply that information, looking at what it means and what implications or outcomes it might suggest. After that, consider alternative perspectives, recognizing that different viewpoints can surface new insights. Finally, we wrap up the process by drawing a reasoned conclusion based on everything you've explored. So this model, as they said in the video, is just a tool. It offers a helpful snapshot of what critical thinking can look like in action. It serves as a reminder that critical thinking is a process, one that involves slowing down, questioning, evaluating, and reflecting rather than rushing straight to an answer or a conclusion. As we move forward in today's session, we're going to build on this idea by exploring some practical strategies you can use to help students think in more deliberate and reflective ways. Our goal is to equip you with tools that make it easier for students to ask stronger questions, analyze information more thoughtfully, and develop the habits in mind that support genuine critical thinking. Later in the webinar, we'll look at approaches that help you model these skills, create space for student inquiry, and guide learners as they practice thinking more deeply and independently. So I'd like you to take just a minute and reflect on what you know about critical thinking by answering this question. What critical thinking skills do you believe are necessary for post-school employment and success? Please enter your responses in the Q&A. And give you a couple of minutes to start to answer this question. Okay. Trina, I'm not able to see any questions yet. Oh, here we go. Thank you. Okay, the first one, the ability to analyze what a piece of information is primary and secondary sources of information. Absolutely. It's being able to read that information and to determine whether or not it's legitimate, right? And be able to know how to look up primary and secondary sources. Excellent problem solving. Absolutely. Okay. Problem solving is good communication. Yep. Thinking on the emerging level, being able to determine if something is safe or unsafe. Absolutely. That's kind of how we approach it. Boy, all through education, right? But especially with our kindergartners and our early learners or people who are just developing this skill. Um, Great. Sophia, time management. Absolutely. It helps with time management, and we're going to get into that a little bit. And in generating those creative solutions, which is really a valuable and important skill, isn't it? Okay, excellent responses. Okay, so all of those lead us into this next thing, and that is that critical thinking is considered a soft skill, right? Dr. Bailey and Dr. Sacco, if you attended the other sessions, introduced you to this concept of a soft skill. So what they are personal, non-technical abilities that influence how someone works and interacts with others, right? So time management, things like that. Critical thinking is a soft skill because it involves analyzing information, evaluating evidence and assumptions, making reasoned judgments, solving problems thoughtfully, and communicating the rationale clearly. Which one of you did say that in the Q&A? Communication is an important part of critical thinking. These abilities depend on cognitive habits and interpersonal judgment rather than technical knowledge. That's what makes them a soft skill. So critical thinking is grouped with skills like communication, teamwork, adaptability, and emotional intelligence. Critical thinking can also be considered a foundational or a core skill. So just quick reflection. Why do you think critical thinking is a foundational or core skill? Just keep that in your mind. Okay, while we move to the next one. Why is this such a core skill? Well, we know that it's because it really underpins everything we do in the workplace, that critical thinking does. When entering workforce, employers value an employee's ability to approach challenges thoughtfully. Using critical thinking on the job means not just following instructions, but actively analyzing situations, solving those problems, and continuously improving work, which is such an important part of this as well. These skills help one to adapt to new environments, contribute to a team, and grow in a career. So as you look at this bulleted list, let's consider what each of these skills might really look like in the workplace. Okay, so as we identify and analyze problems, we are able to recognize issues and evaluate information objectively. So for example, this might look in the workplace like a new employee that's been hired at a retail store, and they notice that inventory counts don't match sales records. Rather than just moving on, they know to review the data and to ask questions to help find the source of the discrepancy. Without that skill, this could really be a mess. When we make evidence-based decisions, we are able to use facts and logic to choose options and create practical solutions. An example might be an entry-level office assistant is asked to recommend a new scheduling app, and they're able to compare features and costs, test a couple of options, and suggest ones that best fit the team's needs. So there's one example. When we know how to plan, organize, and prioritize in the workplace, we are able to break tasks into steps and manage time and resources effectively. Example, a recent hire at a restaurant is assigned to prep for a busy shift. They need to create a checklist. They need to organize ingredients and set up workstations to ensure everything is ready and on time. When we know how to adapt and collaborate, we can adjust strategies when conditions change and work with others to refine ideas. Example, a new team member in a warehouse adapts when a shipment is delayed, working with coworkers to rearrange tasks and keep operations running smoothly. And finally, when we persist and learn from challenges, we can demonstrate resilience and continuous improvement. So when we receive feedback from an employer, we're able to review and think about what we are doing and how we can improve. Critical thinking skills are essential for navigating today's fast-changing work environments and making sound decisions. Here's why developing these skills matter. Well, when we use critical thinking, we become better problem solvers. Employers need individuals who can identify problems, analyze causes, and develop critical solution. Critical thinking ensures employees don't just react, they respond thoughtfully. It also helps us to be stronger at decision making. Critical thinkers weigh options and consider consequences to choose the best course of action. And in the workplace, we also need to be able to adapt and be innovative. Modern jobs demand that flexibility. To support the development of this skill in the classroom, we need to foster innovative ideas that solve problems and improve processes. Having these skills result in an increased ability to collaborate and work efficiently while managing resources. So we're familiar now with what this strong critical thinking looks like in the workforce, but what does it look like in the classroom? What kinds of learning experiences and activities truly help students develop these skills? When we intentionally design opportunities for students to question, analyze, reflect, and make informed decisions, we're not just supporting academic growth. We're building the very skills that will make them successful and employable in the future. As you help students practice and strengthen these skills in the classroom, you are actively preparing them for the demands and expectations they will encounter beyond school. So, just a reflection, take a few moments to review this list and consider how you engage students in the classroom. And I'm going to have you hang on to that because we're going to go to Q&A right after this. So just take a minute and look at this list. Think about how you use this or engage students in the classroom. Okay, so now let's answer this question. To what extent are you intentionally develop students' critical thinking skills necessary for school and post-school success? And based on what we've talked about so far, what questions do you still have about critical thinking? If you could please put your responses in the Q&A. Okay. One response is we ask students, how can you do that assignment better? Yes, great self-reflection. Good. What else are you doing in your classroom? I'm going to give you another minute or so to put your responses in. Asking real life experiences, absolutely. Connecting to what's happening in their life, right? And helping them to apply critical thinking to things that they're familiar with. Great. Good one. Working on collaboration and communication. Yes. In the inclusion academic setting, utilizing strategies that directly help pull in critical thinking skills like race, explicitly teaching how to cite evidence from the text and explaining how it supports the answer. Very good. I have my students find text evidence to support their thinking and explain why that evidence supports their position. Excellent. lots of wonderful things happening in the classroom that are helping to support this, help support critical thinking. So now that we've defined it and you've shared some of your examples, I want to shift into focusing on what this means for educators. And you already have tools. Sounds like you're already doing a lot of this, but I hope that today I can share with you some ideas for how you can expand on this as well. How do we help students develop the skills? In this next section, we're going to explore practical strategies you can use to cultivate critical thinking in your classroom and support students as they learn to think more deeply and independently. As you learned in Dr. Bailey's Personal Characteristics webinar, executive functioning skills are the manager of the brain. They help us organize and direct the thinking processes that make critical thinking possible. So they're vital to critical thinking. Without strong executive functioning, students may struggle to analyze information, plan and execute solutions, and adapt when conditions change. Those are all essential skills in the workplace. They face barriers that could include not being able to plan and organize. Critical thinking requires breaking down complex tasks into steps and prioritizing actions. A barrier for students who do not have this skill are they aren't able to plan, and they feel really overwhelmed and unable to start. And I bet you can envision students now that you see might be struggling with this particular skill. Our working memory can be impacted. Students need to hold multiple pieces of information in their mind while analyzing and comparing ideas. If they lack this skill, they will have limited working memory, making it hard to connect concepts or follow multi-step reasoning. Students who do not display cognitive flexibility are not able to consider multiple perspectives and adapting strategies. They may struggle with rigid thinking and struggle to shift approaches or accept alternative solutions. Students that are not able to self-monitor requires evaluating progress and checking for errors, right, with self-monitoring. Students that are not able to self-monitor may not notice mistakes or reflect on whether their solution makes sense. And finally, they may lack impulse control. Good decision-making requires pausing to weigh options instead of rushing to an answer. Students who act impulsively may choose the first idea without evaluating evidence. So what can we do about this? We know these are barriers. We have students that struggle with some of these executive functioning skills. Really, the way that we can strengthen them is, and this will remind you of previous webinars where cognitive and metacognitive has come up before, but truly essential to use cognitive and metacognitive strategies as we are developing executive functioning for students. These same strategies can also help students overcome many of the barriers we just discussed, the metacognitive and cognitive. In the next few slides, we're going to take a closer look at some specific cognitive and metacognitive approaches that you can use to more effectively teach and reinforce critical thinking skills in your classroom. So, to teach cognitive and metacognitive effectively, you can use structured processes that guide students through deeper thinking. And I'm going to present these four to you that you're probably very familiar with. These are analysis, exploration, investigation, and interaction. These provide a framework for developing cognitive and metacognitive strategies. Through analysis, students learn to organize and interpret data, fostering skills like comparing, contrasting, and error checking. Exploration encourages brainstorming, considering multiple perspectives, and evaluating alternatives, which builds flexibility and creativity. Investigation promotes inquiry by teaching students to ask meaningful questions, plan research, and predict outcomes, enhancing self-monitoring and goal setting. And then finally, interaction emphasizes testing ideas, seeking feedback, and refining solutions, which support that reflection and self-regulation. Together, these processes help learners think deeply, adapt strategies, and become independent problem solvers. As we take a closer look at each of these components, I encourage you to jot down ideas and to begin building a toolkit for yourself. Some of these strategies we're going to talk about, you probably already do, but maybe you can add to that toolkit. As we walk through the strategies ahead, think about how they might complement or enhance the practices you already have in place. So let's start developing our toolkit by learning more about analysis and how we can teach this in the classroom. Analysis is about collecting and examining information to identify solutions and make informed decisions. Here are some examples of some strategies. Now know that these are just some and not limited. There are other analysis strategies, but these are some you may be familiar with. We have compare and contrast, data interpretation, think alouds, and error analysis. An example in the classroom, what this might look like in your classroom analysis is maybe analyzing survey results from classmates to decide the most popular project topic. And then once they've developed that skill, it can translate in the workplace to where perhaps they are able to review customer feedback data to identify service improvements. In the Q&A, would you please add some additional strategies you have used? And how have you applied the ones listed in your teaching? Okay, I've used compare and contrast characters in novels. It's a great example. Using contingency mapping discussions and visuals to make behavioral choices. Choice A leads to this choice. Choice B leads to this. Good one. That's a good example. As a post-secondary transition coordinator, I have them look at costs of post-secondary training and compare average wages. Excellent. Real-world example, right? Something that they can utilize. Excellent. Great examples. I'm going to move on to the next one. Let's look at a video that describes what a think-alike. So we're going to dive into one of these, right? What does a think-alike really look like? As you watch, consider how this aligns with your understanding of think aloud. Sorry, not think-alikes, but think alouds. So let's watch this video. It's very short. And while you're watching the video, again, think about how this aligns with what you have done yourself with think alouds.
A think aloud is different than a model. And I think elementary knocks my socks off with this. Former secondary teacher, I didn't even know about these. It wasn't until I was coaching I really appreciated the power of a think aloud. Let me explain the difference between a think aloud and a model, because for some of us, we might be thinking we're doing a think aloud, but you're doing a model. It's not enough. If I was teaching a kid how to shoot a free throw, I could just model it. Okay, yeah, you're a form. Woo, we got to work on this. Let me show you. Okay, so you get to the free throw line, and this is a free throw. Okay, so this is what you're going to do. Got it? Okay, I'm modeling it. You getting it? Got it? Good. Your turn. Okay, nothing's really going to change about his thinking or his ability to do it. Let me switch that. This is a think aloud. Okay, so we're going to learn how to shoot a free throw. So the first thing I do when I come to the line is I look down. I'm right-handed, my right foot slightly in front of my left. That's not really obvious, but that is what's happening. Here's definitely what's not obvious. I'm leaning forward. You can't see that. Let me tell you, I'm leaning forward. I'm on the balls of my feet. I'm leaning forward. Now, let me tell you where I'm looking, because you can't tell. No, I'm not looking at the rim. You look at the rim and you're going to hit the rim. You don't look at the rim. You look up and over behind the rim. That's where I'm looking. All right, so I'm leaning forward. My knees are flexed. I'm looking up and over behind the rim. Now I'm just hold the ball. You don't need to spin it. You don't need to do it. Just hold the ball. All right? Hold the ball. I'm looking up and over the rim. I'm looking up and over the rim. I'm leaning forward. Now here's what I'm saying to myself. I'm thinking up, 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 snap. Up, 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 snap. Up, 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 snap. That's what I'm doing. Up, 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 snap. Okay, now I want you to do this. I want you to talk me through what you're thinking as you do it. That's a think aloud. Just doing one, just showing them how to put two sentences together, how to insert a transition. How did you know which transition? How did you know we needed a transition? How did you get there? All this buzz about growth mindset, we got to replace their thoughts with the thoughts of the expert.
Great. Watching this video was eye-opening for me. It really underscored the difference between think alouds and modeling, two approaches that may look similar, but they really do involve different processes. With the think aloud, students aren't just observing what you do, they're gaining insight into the thinking behind your actions. It allows them to hear the reasoning, questions, and decision making that would otherwise remain invisible. All right, next, let's consider how exploration fits into your toolkit. Exploration involves using multiple processes and diverse perspectives to explore alternative solutions. Strategies may include brainstorming, role-playing, graphic organizers, and what-if scenarios. In the classroom, this could be an activity such as brainstorming ways to reduce classroom waste and discussing the pros and cons. And this could translate into the workplace then, where we're able to explore alternative layouts for a stockroom to improve efficiency. So for just about a minute, if you could, share with us some strategies you have used to teach exploration in your classroom. Hey, even if we could get one idea, something that you do in your classroom, great. Make job cards with different jobs. Oh, I love that. Yes, students blindly draw one, research briefly, then explain it to the other students. That's a good one. That's a really good one, helping prepare them as well for thinking about when they are out of school, what they might want to do. Perfect. Okay, great example. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next. And actually, this is an example. As you saw, brainstorming, one of the ideas. You just gave us a great example. Here is an example of brainstorming and combining it with that what-if scenario that we just saw. So this is how it works, and we're going to do this together really quick. I'll give you a scenario and some prompts. You're going to type your ideas in the chat. Now, we want quantity over quality. Literally the first thing that pops into your head, okay? No judgment. And I'm going to read it out loud. So you're going to build on each other's ideas. And we're aiming for quantity, not quality. So we have, we're going to give you 1 minute. And here is your prompt. And again, quickly drop your first impressions or first thoughts in. What if money didn't exist? How would people trade or get what they wanted? By working. Good. Barter. Good one. Trading. Yep. Okay. Excellent. Offering services, right? Maybe their own skills. Barter skills for things. Yes. Good one. Get really good at horse trading. All right, that's a good one. All right, let's leave it there. Those are good. Oh, here's another one, barter or trade up auction or auction. All good examples. Okay, so this is something you can easily do with your classes. This is brainstorming a what if scenario. Makes them really, again, we just start thinking and then they get those creative juices flowing a little bit there as well. So let's do this one more time with a different problem that maybe is a little more intense. And I'm going to do this very quickly because this one is going to require a little bit of thinking. But again, I want you to put your first thought in the chat. All right. What if you are introducing exploration as part of critical thinking, but students struggle to generate diverse ideas? They stick to the first solution or copy each other. So very quickly, brainstorming a what if situation. What are your thoughts? Ask guiding questions to help create new ideas. Love it. Yes. Use a large list as a catalyst. Yeah. Give them a place to start. Perfect. Students respond in a secret. Oh, I love that. They respond in a secret manner and they cannot see each other's answers. I agree that sometimes that does. Those students that are shy or unsure, they need this. They need that opportunity to maybe respond anonymously sometimes. Perfect. Thank you. Start off things for students. Yes. Think aloud. Model. Two things we can do, okay, that are different, but can get us started. Perfect examples. All right, let's move to the next one. Let's talk about investigation. Identifying and defining problems and significant questions occurs during investigation. Some examples of strategies that you might be familiar with include using KWL charts, teaching research skills, and how to formulate a hypothesis. A classroom example is that we would be able to have students develop questions for a science experiment on plant growth. This would translate into the workplace by being able to identify root causes of recurring technical issues before proposing fixes. So lots of practice in the classroom eventually can translate to the workplace. For those of you that may not be familiar, I'm going to just show one of these strategies to you. I'm going to walk you through what a KWL might look like in the classroom very quickly. So today we're going to use a KWL chart to guide our learning. KWL stands for know, want to know, and learned. Step one, I want you to first think about what you already know about the topic of space exploration. Write or draw your ideas in the K column. Now notice we have the option to draw. We can use this with younger kids, older kids. Step two, ask yourself, what are you curious about? What questions do you have? Write these in the W column. Step three, after exploring the topic through reading, videos, or discussion, come back and fill in the L column with what you've learned. So really, this simple process helps students organize their thoughts and set learning goals and reflect on what they've discovered. And this is wonderful for any learner, no matter where they are. Love it. Yes, KWL charts are really great. They help all students, no matter where they are in learning, right? Students who struggle, students who don't. It is a great process to engage kids in. Here's one other I'm looking at our time. So I'm going to pause this video for just a minute because I see that we only have about 14 minutes, but I do feel like this is worth watching. I may stop it just a little bit early, but probing questions go beyond simply asking questions, okay? That's very different. And so I feel like this is an important video, and I do know that you're going to have access to this also after this, even if we don't watch all of it. Probing questions dig deeper, and they encourage students to think critically and explore ideas more thoroughly. To me, this is like a step further than a think aloud, right? Because you're helping them to kind of have that self-talk and to start to think deeper. You're guiding it initially. Okay, some of you may have heard of the Socratic method. And so we're going to watch part of this, get an idea of what the Socratic method is, but I want you to really pay attention to what they are teaching you about those probing questions.
Socrates, one of the founding fathers of Western philosophical thought, was on trial. Many Athenians believed he was a dangerous enemy of the state, accusing the philosopher of corrupting the youth and refusing to recognize their gods. However, Socrates wasn't feared for claiming to have all the answers, but rather for asking too many questions. While he loathed formal lectures, the philosopher frequently engaged friends and strangers in lengthy conversations about morality and society. These discussions weren't debates, nor would Socrates offer explicit advice. In fact, the philosopher often claimed to know nothing at all, responding to his partner's answers only with further questions. But through this process, Socrates probed their logic, revealing its flaws and helping both parties reach a more robust understanding. These insightful questions made Socrates beloved by his followers. Two of his students, Plato and Xenophon, were so inspired that they replicated their mentor's process in fictional dialogues. These invented exchanges provide perfect examples of what would come to be known as the Socratic method. In one of these fabricated dialogues, Socrates is conversing with a young man named Euthydemus, who is confident that he understands the nature of justice and injustice. Socrates probes the student's values by asking him to label actions such as lying and theft as just or unjust. Euthydemus confidently categorizes them as injustices, but this only prompts another question. Is it just for a general to deceive or pillage a hostile army? Euthydemus revises his assertion. He claims that these actions are just when done to enemies, and unjust when done to friends. But Socrates isn't finished. He asked the young man to consider a commander lying to his troops to boost their morale. Before long, Euthydemus is despondent. It seems that every answer leads to further problems, and perhaps he's not quite sure what constitutes justice after all. In employing this question-oriented approach, Socrates described himself as a midwife, whose inquiries assist others in giving birth to their ideas. His method of questioning draws out an individual's unexamined assumptions and then challenges those biases. It doesn't always provide definitive answers, but the method helps clarify the questions and eliminate contradictory or circular logic. And by following a line of inquiry where it logically leads, both the question asker and answerer can end up in unexpected places. This technique isn't limited by the conversation's content, making it incredibly useful in numerous fields. During the Renaissance, the method was used to teach clinical.
Okay, I'm going to stop there. You have this available to you. Watch it later. But considering all of the information that students have coming at them right now, being able to think deeply and to consider biases, etc., is really important. It's important to critical thinking, and it's important to their success. So I want you to take a few minutes to consider how you can use a method like Socratic method or whatever you may use already to ask probing questions in your classroom. So from what you've learned, consider how you can use probing questions in your classroom. Okay, that's more of a self-reflection just for time's sake. Something to consider. Now let's talk about the last method, which is interaction. This strategy involves testing and refining solutions to improve the final design and outcome. Some examples of strategies include peer review, trial and error, reflection journals, and collaborative problem solving. In the classroom, this could involve students testing different bridge designs in a STEM project and improving based on their results, which would translate to, for example, being able to pilot a new customer service script and adjust based on feedback. What strategies have you used to teach interaction in your classroom? Give you about a minute to drop your responses in the chat or in the Q&A. Turn and talk to a neighbor. Perfect. Great example. Yes. Okay, any others you can think of? Think, pair, share. Yes. Very, very good strategy. Gives them an opportunity to reflect on their own and then share what they've learned with their partner. Perfect. Okay. Maybe one more. Peer review. Absolutely. Peer review. Great one that we can use. Again, pretty much at all grade levels. It just might look a little bit different. So an example of interaction, and you probably already do this and know how to, but an example of interaction is with that forming collaborative teams in your classroom. And this, if you haven't done it before, is a process that you can use to do that. It begins by clearly defining the challenge and its constraints. Example would be budget, space, time. Next, students are going to form small teams with specific roles, and those specific roles are very important, right? You have your note taker, you have your timekeeper, you have the facilitator or the spokesperson. Those roles do need to be defined and make sure that everybody has a role. This will ensure accountability and the balanced participation. To set them up for success, provide resources like planning templates, research tools, and examples of great projects. As work progresses, guide and monitor the groups. That's going to be important. You need to be providing that feedback and help them resolve conflicts and keep everyone engaged. Finally, after presentations, reflect together on what worked well and identify opportunities for improvement. Continuous improvement is built into that. This approach not only builds teamwork, but also fosters critical thinking, right? As students learn these skills in your classroom, it will have a great impact on post-school success. Just to reiterate, employers are looking for people who can solve problems, make smart decisions, and adapt quickly in a constantly changing work environment, and it is constantly changing. Critical thinking is the foundation for these abilities. It fuels innovation, encourages teamwork, and boosts efficiency, all of which are key for success. As you learn today, it starts in your classroom. You can begin by finding ways to incorporate analysis, exploration, investigation, and interaction in the learning process. Oops, sorry. The impact on post-school success will include stronger problem-solving and decision-making abilities, greater adaptability and resource management skills for handling unexpected challenges, improved communication and collaboration with peers and teams, and increased readiness for real-world demands and long-term career growth. In summary, developing a student's critical thinking abilities isn't just good for school, it's essential for thriving in today's workplace and opening doors to new opportunities for your students. So, with a few minutes left, are there any questions that you have or any of the strategies that you would like us to talk about further? We have just a few minutes to do that before Trina, I don't know if I turn this back over to you at the end or if I just go through to the end. You'll have to let me know.
Yes, I can take it after this.
Perfect.
So we'll give a few minutes and
Great.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all for participating in the Q&A.
And if you haven't seen it, there is a link to the evaluation, and that would be really great. That is in the chat. And I can also, Sheila, if you want to advance the slides.
Sure. Yep,
just
I
a
will.
little bit, or else I will share. Actually, I'll share.
Okay, I don't mind sharing still, so.
Okay, there we are. And here's some additional resources. These will also be on your handout on the slide deck, which will be posted on the Ascend 307 website in the next couple of days. And so take a look at all those links and everything that are really some really informative and interesting additional resources. There's also even more from what was talked about in the very beginning, and some additional resources to check out. And those will, again, be all on your slide deck handout. So here's the evaluation. If you're able to use the QR code, go ahead and do that. And the link is also posted up there as well if the QR code doesn't work out. And I think that is just a few what's coming up. Like I said, these are once a month. And so February 11th, technology use, March 11th, resource management and information use, some of the additional essential readiness skills, April 8th, systems thinking, and then May 6th, we'll kind of have a wrap up webinar. So that is the end of the recording. We can stop recording right now. And here is my contact information if you have any questions.